in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, the tragic story of Katerina Cornaro, the last queen of Cyprus.
She enjoys her life for 1 year with her husband, and her husband dies under very mysterious conditions. Then she finds her 6-month-old baby dead in its crib.
How safe are tourists in Cyprus? Experts from Brighton are sharing their best practices.
We run something called Safe Space at the moment, which is a place in the city centre where people can be directed to if they're very drunk or unwell, or if they've had something stolen. They can patch them up, they can be sick in a bucket, they can get a taxi home, they can take a crime report. And the police, door staff and everybody working the nighttime economy has found that a really useful thing to do.
And more scandals are brewing in the banking sector.
She said that the reason for her resignation was related to the decision of the Resolution Authority, which is none other than the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Cyprus, to replace the law office which served subpoenas to Triazinopoulos and 2 of his henchmen.
Since it opened last year, CVAR has been hosting a whole pile of different events. Something for everyone, you could say, but the new series coming up should appeal both to foreigners in Cyprus and to Cypriots. Rita Severis is the lady behind the CVAR, which stands for the Centre for Visual Arts and Research. Rita, tell us about Paramithias.
Paramithias, they are the storytellers, and it's an idea we had to introduce the story of Katerina Cornaro, the last tragic queen of Cyprus, to children. So, we asked Paramithias, which are 2 girls. One plays the music and the other one tells the story. And we asked them to come and present us the story of Katerina Cornaro twice a month. The first Saturday of each month will be in Greek. The last Saturday of each month will be in English. And there will be music, paraphernalia like the crown and the flags and the banners and the rings and the story of Katerina Cornaro being interactive with the children, and the children will be asked questions and will be asked to participate as well. And we hope that this will keep them occupied and happy for about an hour. It's first and last Saturday of the month.
Why not do it during the week when the schools would come? Because people are busy.
True, but let's not forget that the children during the afternoons, weekday afternoons, have their private lessons, their ballet, their piano, their French, their English. So it was a sort of general demand that we have them on Saturday afternoon. After you do your shopping in the morning, then the mothers are tired, they bring the kids here, they will give them to us, they can have a coffee at the coffee shop, enjoy themselves for an hour while we occupy their children.
All right, and do tell us, for those who are not familiar, a little bit about Katerina Cornaro, a very important personage in Cypriot history.
She was a Venetian lady married to the last Lusinian king of Cyprus, James II, known as the Bastard or the Usurper. She came to Cyprus under one condition, which was put by the Republic of Venice, that she would be adopted officially by the Republic before coming to Cyprus, and that she would sign her will, and if anything happened to her or her family, everything that she possessed, parentheses, the island of Cyprus, would go to Venice. She comes, she enjoys her life for 1 year with her husband, and her husband dies under very mysterious conditions. Then she finds her 6-month-old baby dead in its crib. So she's the only one ruling Cyprus, only for a few years, because after that she is asked by the Doge of Venice to abdicate, or else she would meet the same death as her husband and her child.
So were the Venetians behind these deaths? And if so, why?
Because they wanted Cyprus. They wanted the island. And this was a way of getting the island with no war, very easily. They inherited it. She was the daughter of Venice.
So what did she do in the end?
she had to abdicate. She abdicated and she left Cyprus and went to live in a little village north of Venice called Asolo, where she was surrounded by painters and artists and writers and musicians, and she occupied herself with the arts, while the Cypriots were suffering under heavy taxation by the Venetians.
So who replaced her?
Nobody. The Doge and the Council of Ten were ruling Cyprus. But the Cypriots didn't like it, so there was a conspiracy. A deputation went to Asolo, found Katerina and said, "We would like to rebel against the Venetians, and if we do, would you come back and be our queen again?" Because she was loved by the people of Cyprus. And of course she agreed to this. But the Doge got whiff of it. So he invited Katerina down to Venice one day to discuss things. She comes down to Venice, she spends that night at Palazzo Corner, the palace of her parents, and she's to meet the Doge the next morning. But the next morning, she's found dead in her bed.
Well, we all know about medieval times and
Exactly.
particularly what went on in Italy, I think, then. But this is all going to be brought to life for the kids. Remind us once again where and when.
At CVEA, at the Centre of Visual Arts and Research in Ermou Street, 285 Ermou Street, first Saturday of the month in Greek, last Saturday of every month in English, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Paramithias, the storytellers.
Rita Severis, thanks for joining me.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Cyprus is considered to be a pretty safe tourist destination, but there was a round-table discussion held earlier this week in Nicosia, organised by the Cyprus Tourism Organisation and the British High Commission. It was called Leading Together, UK-Cyprus for Safer Tourism. Joining us now from the board of the Cyprus Tourism Organisation is Xenia Loizidou and also the acting British High Commissioner, Linda Burns. Linda, can you start by telling us why the British High Commission got involved in this?
Well, Cyprus is a very important destination for British tourists, and we have over 1 million per year. Obviously, we've worked very long with all the authorities and we enjoy excellent cooperation, but we had an idea to get everybody, all the stakeholders in the room at once, and to discuss the issues over a round table to deepen and broaden the contacts.
I imagine that of the millions that do come here, a reasonable proportion may get into trouble and need the consular services. I mean, can you just enlighten us a bit about that? What sort of percentage of British tourists actually do end up knocking on the High Commission's door?
Well, actually, the vast majority of visits are safe and secure and thoroughly enjoyable. So, of 1 million tourists per year, we have only a few hundred consular cases requiring our attention. However, these cases can be very serious, and so for that reason we want to, even if we can eliminate as many as we can of the small number of cases, that would be something worthwhile.
What are the most common type of cases you have to deal with?
We deal with deaths, arrests, rape and sexual assault and theft cases.
And the majority of those will fall, of course, under the legal jurisdiction here in Cyprus. What help can the High Commission give to somebody who does, for example, get arrested while on holiday?
Well, when here, British tourists do have to obey the laws of the land, and we encourage them to do so before they arrive with our campaigns and leaflets about holidaying abroad. But once they're here, if they do get into trouble, they can ring the High Commission and we will help them with consular assistance. There are things that we cannot do for them, but there are things that we can help them with. For example, if they lose their passport, or they need to report a crime to the police, or they need to find a lawyer, we can help them with that.
Let's come to you, Xenia, as a board member of the CTO. Obviously, tourism is such an important sector in Cyprus.
Yes, it's the heavy industry of Cyprus. It's the 8% of our GDP.
So what help will this conference be in terms of the CTO product?
Our idea was to have a board of committee that could bring all stakeholders together and work together, because each of the stakeholders is doing different things. Police is doing their duty, district officers are doing their duties, but we want everybody to come together, and that's why we are very enthusiastic when we got the invitation from the British High Commission to participate and actually co-organize this roundtable. And today the CTO actually announced its will to undertake this initiative to bring everybody together, to take the results of this roundtable further and bring everybody together, organize working groups and trying to improve what is already in a very good stage in Cyprus, safety of tourism. But because exactly safety is our major concern, we invest in this and we want to improve it all the time as much as possible.
It'll take time if you're going to have working groups discussing this, that and the other, and the holiday season is starting any time now. How quickly do you think you can implement some of the suggestions that have come out of the conference?
Immediately, because they are already being implemented, and we don't want to make working groups in the sense that start doing mission statements and blah blah. We have the police having their action plan, the hoteliers having their action plan. We want to put all of them together and get the biggest impact, have an added value from this cooperation. So we believe that within the next couple of weeks we will have this joint action plans in place.
How come it's taken until now to get all these stakeholders together? I mean, everybody's working, in a sense, under the umbrella of the CTO.
No, everybody is working under their umbrella. CTO is actually the organization responsible for promotion of Cyprus as a tourist destination. However, the police is having their own laws and their own tasks, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. What we want is to find the synergies and put everybody together. So CTO is coordinating this issue. Why we didn't do it until now? Because perhaps it was not so much embedded that stakeholders should work together. The involvement of all stakeholders is crucial. So we are doing it now, and we believe we will have the best results this year.
Xenia Loizidou and Linda Burns talking to me there about the roundtable conference leading together UK Cyprus for safer tourism. The discussion was about how to improve Cyprus' safety record as far as one of its main GDP earners is concerned. One of the keynote speakers came all the way from Brighton and Hove on the south coast of the UK. He's Peter Castleton. Peter, what were you talking about?
I was talking about problems that we've had in Brighton. We still have to some extent, but greater problems that we had in the past in terms of particularly young people becoming very drunk, and issues in terms of policing and community safety in relation to that.
That compares probably, I think it's fair to say, with the problems we've got in some of our coastal resorts, particularly, for example, Ayia Napa. Have you had a chance to talk to the CTO here about how you did what you did and whether or not we can do something similar?
Yes, I have, and that was the purpose of my presentation here today, really. It was to describe what we've done over the last, 10 years or so, I guess, in terms of improving community safety, engaging with relevant stakeholders, making sure we've got a really safe offer, and that we are promoting our resort together with businesses rather than working against businesses.
So what did you actually do? What had to be changed?
Well, what we already did was threw lots of police officers at it on a Friday and Saturday night. What we have done more innovatively over the last 10 years, and indeed Brighton and Hove had beacon city status in relation to the way it manages the nighttime economy, was to broaden the offer away from drinking where we could, to engage with the right stakeholders, for example from health and the voluntary sector. Just to give you a little example, we run something called Safe Space at the moment, which is a place in the city centre where people can be directed to if they're very drunk or unwell, or if they've had something stolen. They can patch them up, they can be sick in a bucket, they can get a taxi home, they can take a crime report. And the police, door staff and everybody working in the nighttime economy has found that a really useful thing to do.
Has it been costly to do this?
There has been some cost, but of course in these increasingly straitened times for all of us, we've had to look at more innovative ways of working, and we've been particularly trying to build our relationships with the third sector, so St John's Ambulance, for example, the voluntary sector, and street pastors who come from our local churches are out and about on the streets on a Friday and Saturday night, keeping an eye out for people and offering to help where people are in distress, and that's at virtually no cost.
That's Peter Castleton, one of the keynote speakers from Brighton and Hove in the UK at the Leading Together UK Cyprus for Safer Tourism roundtable discussion held in Nicosia earlier this week. And staying with that event on security and tourism, of course it was also attended by the Cyprus police, whose spokesman is Andreas Angelidis. Andreas, what did the police get out of this conference? Because you've got problems in particular areas of Cyprus. Is this going to help you deal with those problems?
First of all, we have to say that the role of the police is just to keep the place safe and just to improve our quality for the tourists that are living here in Cyprus. So, according to the situation that we have now, we have, first of all, many people from UK that are living in Paphos. So we try through the community policy just to have good relation and cooperation with these people in order to help us. And something that I have to say, and it's important, they give us, when we want something just for information, the English people is the people that they give all the details in order to help us for our investigation when we have a case.
Are you talking now about neighbourhood watch schemes? Because it started, didn't it, in the Paya area, I think?
Yes, and this is important that they give us all the information that we want when we have something to investigate. So they help, the police, they have good cooperation with the police officers in the stations that they are living in their areas. So it's something that we have to improve further in order to have good relation regarding the crime and how to prevent, especially. It's important to prevent and to have safety.
OK, but they are very often permanent residents here. We'll talk a bit about tourism because we get a lot of young people, particularly in some of our hot spots like Ayia Napa, coming and misbehaving, getting into trouble because they use drugs or they get drunk and so on and so forth. Now, do you have a sort of tourist police on the ground in some of these resorts?
OK. The other part that I have to say is that about the people that visit Ayia Napa for tourism. So, first of all, it's important to mention that our police officers, they have good education in the police academy, how to deal with this problem and to be positive, in order to offer quality service to people, to tourism. So, the young people, especially that they are visit Ayia Napa, they used to drink. So, what we've done is that we have more patrols, especially the last year, and we continue to plan this for this year. More patrols, more police officers in order to prevent, in order to feel that the people that they are for holidays, they are safe. But on the other hand, there is something that we have to say. When you have some cases, we have offenses to investigate, we enforce the legislation and prosecute them before the court immediately in order to understand that there is a legislation and that they have to obey the law.
Right, but when you talk about the excessive drinking, one of the reasons that happens is that a lot of the bars, licensed by the CTO here in Cyprus, actually push the drink at people by offering crazy cocktails that are actually dangerous in some cases at ridiculous prices to try and get the tourists to drink more, in some cases to get very drunk and then do all sorts of rather unpleasant things. Now, that surely is another area you need to deal with.
It's another area, and it's something that I think that we have to discuss in this meeting. Is a matter that is belong to another service. So, for the police, when you have some information or something about this situation, we investigate.
But wouldn't it help you do the prevention side better if these bars were actually in some way monitored about what they were allowed to sell?
You mean that in order to have more restrictions regarding
the type and the price of drinks that are actually actively encouraging young people to get legless?
Yes, I think it's something that generally, if there's a coordination with other services, these suggestions that we have maybe is something that we have to discuss here. It will be more helpful for us in order to prevent.
And this coming summer, holiday season upon us, how many police have you got on the ground in places like Ayia Napa? Are you short-staffed or can they cope?
Yes, we're planning to have enough policemen in order to have safety and to feel, just the tourists feel safety. And it's something that we plan for today, and the headquarters is coordinated with the division, Famagusta division, in order to have enough policemen in order to prevent and also to have the presence of the police in the area.
Police spokesman Andreas Angelidis.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
Another scandal brewing is in the papers this week, with former Laiki Bank strongman Andreas Gnenopoulos apparently having used his influence to have lawyers acting against him replaced. The story was written by Stelios Orfanidis. Stelios, can you try in simple language to explain what is going on here?
Yes, okay. On Monday, the administrator of Laiki, of Cyprus Popular Bank, or the Legacy Laiki, resigned. And according to her resignation letter, which leaked to the press, she said that the reason for her resignation was related to the decision of the Resolution Authority, which is none other than the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Cyprus. The decision was to replace the law office, which served subpoenas to Andreas Gnenopoulos and two of his henchmen, so to say, Kyriakos Magiras and Efthimios Bouloudas. Together they used to run Laiki until 4 years ago. And the subpoenas were for an alleged violation of a previous court order, an asset freezing court order. The law office who was handling the case and served the subpoenas to the three was the law office Andreas Neocleous, and the founder of that law office said that behind this decision was Gnenopoulos.
Was he able to present any evidence for that assertion?
Well, he argued that Gnenopoulos is powerful and influential and rich. He's a billionaire, after all. He did not present any proof that there was an actual violation of the court order, but he explained that the three of them had never given any account of the money they received from frozen accounts in Greece, as they had to do. And because of that, they got angry. And right after that, he said that some other lawyer, informed him that he heard Andreas Yorgachi, the estranged husband of the governor, who is heading the Resolution Authority, that the Neocleous office would be relieved from this case.
We ought to clarify here, if you would please, the relationship between the governor of the central bank, who is, of course, on the Resolution Authority, and the estranged husband, and there's something as well about the governor's daughter working for a law office.
Yes.
So can you just explain that rather strange relationship between all these people?
Yes. We know that Christala Yorgachi is the governor of the central bank, and we also know that she's also head of the Resolution Authority, the board of directors of the central bank. And we also know that Laiki, the Cyprus Popular Bank, is under resolution, went into resolution 2 years ago. And we also know that Yiannopoulos used to run that particular bank, and we also know that Andreas Yorkaci, the governor's husband, is
former
a lawyer,
husband.
Estranged husband. They are still legally married, as far as I understand. Now, he's representing Yiannopoulos, so he has Yiannopoulos, this powerful man, as a client.
So basically we're saying that the lawyer representing Yiannopoulos is the estranged husband of the governor of the Central Bank of Cyprus, who is in charge of the resolution of the Popular Bank, and that's where, in a sense, conflict of interest is something we've been hearing very regularly.
Exactly, and the common daughter, Mariana, used to work for that office until mid-November, and weeks after that, the governor signed another contract after that controversy broke out in late October with a statement of the President of the Republic back then, in which he lambasted Yorkaci for claiming that he was aware that she had made changes in the contract. She finally signed and had a clause removed.
That dealt with conflict of interest.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, if we get back to this current situation, though, with the resignation and the consequences thereof.
The resignation of Andri Antoniadis may have little impact currently on what is going on in the legacy Laiki. Just because, from what I heard, one of the spokesmen of the Association of Laiki Depositors, who was talking today in a radio show, they saw almost nothing liquidated ever since. And the values of the assets legacy Laiki is managing fell significantly compared to 2 years ago. So I don't know if this situation can be changed by appointing another replacement, but it looks like the central bank board of directors was not happy about that as well, because they flatly rejected her resignation letter in its entirety. This is what they said 2 days ago.
They've accepted the resignation, but they have rejected and denied the claims in it.
Exactly. And according to a central bank board of directors member that I spoke to, some things could have been handled differently. This is what he said, including by the central bank, by the resolution authority. So almost everyone, apparently, according to this source I spoke to, has part of the blame for the current situation there.
And in the immediate future, we'll have to see surely a replacement of the person dealing with all of this. And do we know any more about the ongoing situation with the subpoenas from these various legal companies?
Well, now it is up to the new law office, which is going to be in charge of the Yiannopoulos case. The office will be Chrysis Dimitriadis, that's another law office in Limassol, just like Yorkaci's law office and Neocleus law office. As far as I understand, they were unhappy to see the subpoenas being served to Yiannopoulos and his associates. However, we don't know how they will treat the case from now on. What Andreas Neocleus told me in an interview a couple of days ago was that when his office was appointed to handle the interest of Laiki, they received all pending cases from other law offices, and they just agreed to have Chrysis Dimitriadis remain as the only other law firm. However, he said that they disagreed with the way they were handling the case. He said that the Dimitriadis law office was pursuing a case against Yiannopoulos and the other two based on bad banking practices as a cause of action, which, as Neocleus said, was not sufficient to get any asset freezing order by any court, or doesn't make anyone, let's say, liable to the law, because anyone can claim at the court this is how much I knew about banking, this is how much I did. If the bank went bust, well, tough luck. But he said that his law office changed the course of action and replaced the bad banking practices with fraud. And this was sufficient to have the asset freeze order issued 2 years ago and finalized a year later. And something he said that I think is important, and this claim was also repeated by the spokesman of the Laiki Depositors Association, was that they requested funds from the central bank that would allow them to appoint lawyers abroad in order to have the final order of the court, which made the asset freeze absolute. This is the term he used, to have it translated and implemented in other jurisdictions outside Cyprus. He said that his law office sent several letters to the Central Bank of Cyprus, which were left unanswered.
So it looks like this one's going to run for quite a while, and we'll no doubt hear more about those law offices, and a lot more things undoubtedly will be coming to light soon. Stelios Orfanidis, thanks for joining me. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.